Good morning, or Avshen, as they say here in Xitsonga, the local language. It's supposed to be 9 degrees out here, 47 degrees Fahrenheit. That is patently untrue. It is very cold. It feels like it's about minus 26. That's just because we're a bit naffy here in South Africa. We don't really know what a winter feels like. You are most welcome on our dawn safari. My name is James Henry. David is on camera. David looks like a cross between a bank robber and a Formula One driver. You know, those hoods that they put over their faces to stop themselves burning to death? Well, that's what he's got over his head, and that's to stop him freezing to death as opposed to the opposite. We are in Maggie the Mahindra today, so named by Jamie Patterson, who is driving around at the moment being filmed by Brian. I think they're going towards Cheetah Plains today, but she'll tell you a little bit about that a bit later. In the final control, Geraldine the Cheesecake makes a welcome return to the directing seat, and she's being helped by Kirsten McLennan-Smith and her big stick. Now, our plan this morning is to head off towards the eastern side of where we are and see if we can't pick up on those little lion cubs that were around yesterday and the day before that. They did go into some very thick bush, down into a thick drainage line, getting Maggie the Mahindra. She's a bit wobbly. I'm not sure that we'll get her into the big drainages, but they may have come out. We certainly have been moving around. Now, I did say we were live, so that is what I meant. Please talk to us, hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or questions at wildearth.tv if you're on the email. Now, Lynn in Michigan, you say there were lions calling from the Djuma Dam Cam at about 4:30 this morning. It sounded like 3 or 4 of them. Lynn, that's great. We did hear them. It just sounded horribly like they were too far north of us for us to be able to follow them. So I think they were on Buffels Hook. But thank you very much for that update, and any other updates that happen to have come through during the course of the night, please feel free to send them through now. Hashtag Safari Live, questions at WildEarth.tv. We're just having a bit of the dawn chorus here. Lots of birdies calling. Let's go across to Jamie. She's got a mammal for the morning.
Starting off this morning on a somewhat smelly note, we've got a large waterbuck bull, the symbol of the Sabi Sand, which is of course where we are at the present moment, looking upon us with a disdainful expression as we wrap up in our beanies, scarves, jackets, and in my case one hot water bottle. We've got a nice solid fluffy coat to protect him from the elements. Good morning, my name is Jamie, and this morning I have got Brian on camera with me, and stand by for a second. The thumb was jacketed up and very warm and had to actually remove all of his layers in order to make a very quick appearance. We've come through to Treehouse Dam to just see whether or not there's any chance that Karula, the queen of Djuma, the female leopard that we all know and love, has not decided whether or not to come back to the north into our Traverse area. We're going to see if we can't figure out where she may be. Yesterday afternoon she disappeared off to the south, just like our waterbuck is currently doing. He's also vanishing off into the distance, into the bushes, and we're going to carry on. And James Dungan, since we are going to be heading across to the east, yes, it's going to be a very pretty sunrise, I think, and we'll have a lovely view of it from Gowrie, Main. The truth is I'm putting off the journey to Cheetah Plains just right now because it involves quite a long, straight and relatively fast drive to the east, which for us increases the wind chill factor exponentially. It's part of the reason why we are first searching for Karula, for the biting wind is catching any exposed bits of skin. My ears are starting to feel chilly despite the beanie. Brr. Oh, jolly good. How fresh are these then? Sorry, tracks for Karula. This is horrible sand. It's very thick, and It actually makes figuring out whether or not these tracks are fresh quite difficult. In fact, you can barely see them, and I'm not going to use them as a track demonstration. I'm going to search for a slightly clearer example of leopard tracks to show you. But good news is they are coming this way, so back into Djuma. I say tracks for Karula. Oh, there's cubs as well. Oh, jolly good. What wonderful, marvellous news. Let's just go a little bit further ahead to where the sand gets finer, so that I can try and see just how fresh these tracks are. But it's looking positive, everybody. If cubs are with her as well, bouncing around the place, it's a very, very good sign. Let me go and investigate further on. There's a nice patch on this road where it'll be a little bit clearer. This thick sand distorts the shape of the track and distorts the outline and makes it very tricky to see exactly how fresh the tracks truly are. Yay! It looks as though Karula's come back to us. This is very good news, first thing on a chilly morning. It makes going out this early and in these frigid temperatures. It's a slight exaggeration, it's not that bad. It feels bad though. That makes it entirely worthwhile. There's little cub footprints walking on the side of the road. Don't know where Mom's tracks are, but little cub has been wandering about. Minuscule little footprints. And those look very fresh to me. Right, let us turn around and return to the last set of tracks. I'm just going to call these in, get a little bit of assistance. Stations, it looks like tracks for Karula and Bantwans on Treehouse Road, Mobile east towards Treehouse Dam itself. I'm going to be following up. Okay, let us go and investigate. And a very valid question coming from Joey in Australia, saying, before I saw the little cub footprints, how did I know it was Karula and not just a female wandering about, perhaps looking for a territory? To be 100% honest with you, I didn't. It's factoring in all likelihood it's Karula. She loves this particular spot. It's the part of her territory that is basically the heart of her home range at the moment, the areas that she's covering. Did I know with 100% certainty? Would I have staked my life upon it? Probably not. But it's almost certain, just because of the area that we are in and the fact that she just loves to use this road. It seems to be her favorite place at the moment. But it's a good point, Joey. You do raise a good point, and perhaps I should be more clear about that in future, about the fact that some of it for us is guesswork, relatively educated guesswork, but guesswork nevertheless. Right, where are they? Let's go nice and slowly, because those cub tracks are crisp and fresh. Going in here. Okay, we are going to do some seriously careful investigating of the area. I suspect she's in this drainage somewhere. While we do that, let's go back over to James, see if he has any updates for you.
Well, that's a promising start, isn't it? Waterbuck and Karula tracks. I think there's no more promising start one could hope for. We are easing our way down to the great valley of the Mulwati in front of us there. And, well, we're doing it quite slowly because it is quite chilly out here. And we don't want to miss little lion cubbies or their tracks on the road. Wouldn't it be nice to have leopard and lion cubs today? I think that's definitely a very good way to start the weekend. We found one kudu. It was very fluffy. It then ran away. And Aaron, as you correctly point out, Saturday has been very much Catterday in the last few weeks, and so with any luck we'll have Catterday here. Allow me to turn around in the Mahindra. Now, you must just remember that Maggie the Mahindra is rather like driving a boat. Hang on a second. She sways from side to side. Just thought I could hear. Just thought I could hear some alarm calling. No, nothing so far. So she was found left on the eastern side of this drainage lagoon. By she, I mean the mummy lion, yesterday. And so that's where we're going to begin our little search. Now, yesterday, of course, we did see her. Well, we didn't, but you all saw her, many of you, at 1:30 in the morning. At the dam pan with her cubs, which means she's moving them quite a lot. So I don't think she's going to be in the same place that she was yesterday morning, but she might be around there. So maybe we'll be lucky. Maybe we'll just see Fluffy Kudu all morning. David, it feels to me like this lens is right in my face, doesn't it?
She is quite close. You look good.
Hello, William in Oregon. You say due to your work schedule you haven't been able to watch the safari lately. William, there is no work schedule more important than watching this. I am, of course, being facetious. And you say, when was the last time we saw cheetah? I think we saw a week ago, about a week ago. I think about a week ago on Cheetah Plains, unsurprisingly. But certainly the sightings continue to be very rare, and you know, as soon as we hear about them, we rush over to Cheetah Plains. So it's always a good idea to just look down into these drainage areas and see if the lions don't pitch up there. And then I think as the sun pops out, or as the day starts to break, you'll find that they will spend a little bit more time in the open, maybe playing. And that's what we hope to catch now. Possibly in the little area down below here where there's some pans and open areas. But they could have moved a long way over the course of yesterday and last night. And it was round here, of course, that Karula gave birth. Marilee, nice one from you. We were chatting about tracking all morning, and my mouth got a little frozen there. We have been looking at tracks all morning, and you say, do the animals read each other's tracks and follow them? Marilee, the animals, I don't believe, read each other's tracks, no. I don't think that they see them. I think they can smell each other quite effectively, though. That is either a lion-bellied colour stump. In fact, it almost certainly is. Oh, it's a lion. It is a lion-belly-coloured stump. Very nice. Well done, James. I'm doing very well so far this morning. So, Marilee, you'll find that they, much like a tracker dog, so if you know you've seen police tracker dogs, well, maybe, hopefully you haven't been followed by any, but you've seen them on films, and you've seen how they're used to track people. Excuse me a second. Marilee, they don't follow the actual footprints. They just follow the scent. And I think that's very much the same as what happens out here. Now, being on the valley of the Great Mulwati Drainage, the sun will come up rather later than it does normally because we're low down, and by low down I don't mean tremendously more lower down than the rest of the reserve. It is very gently undulating topography. You will notice that there are no great big mountains that we have to climb up. It's all very ancient, sandy, granitic soil. Hello, Lawrence in South Dakota. Lauren or Lawrence? Geraldine? Hello, Lauren. Yes, quite a difference between Lauren and Lawrence. The most obvious difference being a Y chromosome, or the lack thereof. Lauren, I'm going to assume you don't have a Y chromosome, and you want to know when, what month it'll start to get warm here. Lauren, we'll notice a difference probably by the end of July even. August will definitely be warmer, but it's funny, somewhere between the end of August and halfway through September, it's like summer arrives. It normally happens almost overnight. It's the most uncanny thing. It does, I mean, it will gradually get warmer, but then one day you wake up and you think, it's actually hot today. It's changed. And that normally happens between sort of the 3rd week of August and the 2nd week of September. But August will be much warmer than this. This is the coldest month that we'll have. And I don't think it's been as cold as it was last year. Last year we had reports of... Sorry, my earpiece is playing havoc with me here. Geraldine, did you say I was linked to Jamie? Ah. Right. What was I waffling on about, David? Do you remember? Completely lost. Oh, the weather. That's right. This is the coldest month, and I don't think it's... that's right, I've got it now, Dave. I don't think this is as cold as we had it last year. Last year we had 4 degrees Celsius, which is, I think, just about 40 degrees Fahrenheit. That was about the coldest we had. And today it's supposed to be 9. Feels a bit colder than that. You can see how thick the bush is here. I saw some duiker running off through that bush. They didn't seem to be particularly terrified. There we go, David. There's a duiker. Oh, the duiker's gone. Our first mammal ran away. Hello, Katie in Indiana. What a very philosophical question you've asked for this early in the morning. You say, do I think that animals have a sense of morality? Well, now, I mean, that is quite a question, and one that I'm not sure I'm qualified to answer, but I'm going to give it a go anyway. What is a sense of morality, of course, is the question that needs to be asked, and why has it developed? And I'm about to read a book about it that Louise has lent me, and unfortunately it was confiscated by Kirsten McLennan Smith recently, about just such a thing. And basically it goes through, I think, the evolutionary reasons for why it is that human beings have a sense of morality. What is this sense of morality that we have, and why do we have it? And the answer is probably got something to, if you want to look at it purely biologically, it's probably got quite a lot to do with living in a society where cooperation is extremely important. If you don't live in a cooperative society as a human being, then there's too much death, and for the species it just doesn't work out so well. So for many other animals out here that doesn't really make a huge amount of sense. So this is purely from a biological point of view. So does it make any sense for a lion to have a sense of morality? No, not really, because it doesn't really, they don't live in a very close-knit society where different villages and groups are very large and they interact with each other on a consistent basis. So there's no real evolutionary pressure towards morality and towards not killing each other, save but within your pride. And then if you go to totally solitary animals like leopards, well, that pressure's even less. So from a purely biological point of view, I would say no, I don't think they do. From a, what should we say, esoteric, spiritual level, do I think they have a sense of morality? I don't know. wonderful blog yesterday I read about the 5'5" Dudley Riverbank male leopard at Londolozi and the relationship that he had with his kith and kin. Very unusual, totally unlike the textbooks will tell you. Was there some sense of feeling and connection and therefore some sort of moral connection with his family? I don't know. I'm not sure. I like to think maybe there was. With elephants, we all like to think that there is some sense of morality, perhaps. And yeah, I don't know. It's a lovely question to think about and ponder as we drive through this drainage on a Saturday morning. Now, I've stopped mainly because it was such a complicated question and I needed my brain to operate. And secondly, because we need to just have a quick listen as to what's going on around us. Have you got ambient there, Dave? Okay, no ambient sound today. So what you can hear, or what I can hear, I'll describe it to you. Okay, the fish eagle. You mean the Franklins? The Franklins. That's what I thought you meant. The Franklins are calling. Sounds absolutely nothing like a fish eagle whatsoever. And there are a couple of white-browed scrub robins going. Sorry. Okay. Maybe you did. I didn't hear one. And white-browed scrub robins going. I can't whistle now. Great plethora. The flock of ground-dwelling fish eagles that are calling from a bush just down over there. All right. I haven't seen any tracks of this lion, so we'll do a loop of the block. Aaron from San Francisco, you say there's a red engine light on in the vehicle, and is there a problem? Aaron, this vehicle is a problem in its entirety. It is too large for its current application. The frame on which David is sitting is heavier than most oil tankers, and with the smell and sound of the diesel engine make it extremely difficult. That is because this car does not come out of the finest German automotive factory. It comes from, I actually don't know where it comes from, but it just means that the handbrake is on, but the handbrake is not on and has ceased to function and has not functioned for many, many, many months. So no, it's just a pretty coloured red light on the front of the dashboard that is utterly meaningless to our drive today. Curious one, you say your grandmother had a sewing machine that sounded like this Mahindra. All I can say is your grandmother must have been an industrial scale sewer if she had one that sounded this loud. This is a beastly loud car, and that's because it wasn't designed for the current purpose. I think we're going to get stuck here, David. Come on, Mahindra. Come on, Maggie. That's it. Good girl. Well done. Ah, well done. Well done, Maggie. Jamie is still tracking those leopards, by the way, and I think there's some confusion as to whether they've crossed out of the reserve or not. Now, Joe, in Australia, you've asked a very good question to which I do not know the answer exactly. You say, and it's a very good question, do animals, or like lions, if they're tracking kudu, or will they smell kudu and then track them till they find them, or do they just blunder about the place until they spot them? My instinct is to say the latter. I don't think that they track them by smell. I think once they have them in sight, perhaps they use smell. But I don't know that they move always, you know, with the wind in their favor. I don't know if they're cognizant of that. Some people will tell you that they are. I'm not convinced. I think there's quite a lot. I think it's largely based on sight. I think it's largely based on walking through the bush, walking through the territory. They know they're going to hit something eventually, and then they go into a mode that may use the wind to their favor and try and get into a situation where they can smell where the prey are, or where the prey cannot smell where they are. So I think it's largely done by sight, Joey. There may be a few animals that don't do it like that, but if you watch wild dogs hunting, their noses are never to the ground. You know, it's not like they're ever sniffing with their noses on the ground. Their heads are always up, and they're looking and they're looking and they're listening. So I don't think there's a huge amount of eye involved, at least nose involved. Let's just look down here, Davy, into those sort of dry riverbeds, and in the fringing bushes. Sorry, Dave. And in the fringing bushes is where we're likely to see these lion cubs, I think. Anyway, Dave is now at a very astounding angle because he has no movement, or no way to move on the camera there. Well done, David. You'll be very supple by the end of this drive. Or you'll have some sort of detached or slipped disc. Go again with that, Jerry. Taylor, hello, I'm not sure I've spoken with you before. Taylor, you want to know why kudu are known as the grey ghost? I didn't know they were. I suppose if they're known as the grey ghost, it may well be because they're so elusive. They do disappear into bush very quickly. They're greyish in colour, I suppose. Taylor, I don't know, I've never heard of that. If you can tell me where that comes from, I'd be very interested. They are very secretive, and they will disappear at a moment's notice, as evidenced by the ones we saw this morning, which you didn't see because they were so ghostly and they disappeared. Ah. Apparently our great resource Google says that kudu are known as grey ghosts because they are so good at hiding in thickets. I would have thought that was fairly obvious. There might be another reason for it, I'm not sure. Thank you, Taylor. You can see the sun is now starting to peep through the leaves. And we'll just make our way around into some clearings up ahead and reassess our position. I haven't seen any lion tracks. Some of these roads are quite hard though, and so it wouldn't be unusual to miss them. There are a couple of beefalo tracks around the place. The other thing is that going wandering through the thickets in there, blinded by a thick bush, when you know that there's a lioness and her cubs in there, well, that can be a very high adrenaline sport. Hello, Magnolia, North Carolina. That's a very appropriate name that you have for your particular part of the world. You say, are all 5 Nkuhuma lionesses accounted for? I haven't seen them for a while. We've got the one with the spotty nose. We've seen Amber Eyes recently. We have seen that other one knocking about. I think she's the one with the long face. Knocking about. Maybe she too has cubs, we're not sure. So, no, they're not really, I suppose. They're not all accounted for. I'm not sure where they all are. It's not unusual, though. It's entirely within the norms of lion society for them to be knocking around slightly separately. Right, let's see what we got up top here. Not much at the moment. Oh, but we do have the sun on our faces, David. Let's take a moment to appreciate that. Kat, you're in Tampa and you say it doesn't look like there's much grass left out here, and is that the case? Kat, it is absolutely the case. There is almost no grass left out here, and that is because of the drought we had, so a very poor growth season, followed by the dry season, which we're in the middle of now. And Kat, that's why there is no grass around the place. And while the animals are okay now, as we go into the next few months, this is where they're going to have a bit of trouble. My earpiece is coming out of my ear, so I'm going to tape it to my face, and that should stop it happening. And therefore I shall be able to hear Geraldine's crisp, sweet tones more clearly for the duration of the drive. Put my gloves back on, because I am a ninny, and I don't like to have cold handies. My tootsies are also cold, David. Are your tootsies cold? It's going to be the most beautiful day. Eventually, once it warms up. And once we find an animal, David, we do need to find some kind of animal, even a bird at this stage, would be perfectly acceptable to show people. We're going to resort to a tree very soon. If we don't find something bird-like or mammal-like by the time we get to the next junction, what we'll do is show you a tree. Oh, David, look, there's Nyala. Good grief. Our cup runneth over. Say when. I know it's very difficult for you to see anything. Is that right? There, everybody, are two Nyala cows. Unfortunately looking rather chilled to the max, indicating that the presence of a lioness is either about to eat them or she is not here. And I don't know if you can see them fluffing out there in the sun. You've lost them. Let me go forward a bit. One of them is still standing in the sun. I can't see what David's seeing, everyone, because we don't have a monitor. They've now disappeared. Let's carry on. They are very fluffy, and we've been asked a few times about whether or not animals get winter coats. And they do definitely. They're not obviously as impressive as, say, a Highland coo. I don't know if you know what a Highland coo is, but if you go up into the Highlands of Scotland in the wintertime, you'll find the cows there. They've got very long hair indeed. But because it doesn't get quite that cold here, and they don't get shaggy, but they certainly do get a little fluffier than they do in the belting hot heat of the summer. Where are the lions, David? Hello, Bianca in Hungary. How lovely to hear from you all the way from Hungary. Wonderful stuff. Bianca, you say, who gets to name the animals that we see most frequently? Bianca, I do. No, I don't really. That's not true. It's normally, it's only the leopards really, and then different lion prides that get named. But lion pride names last for many, many years. So it's normally actually only the leopards that we'd call different things, or officially call them names. And it's normally then the guides on the property on which the animals were found. So George and Charlotte, which are our Karula's two leopard cubs, and they don't have official names yet. I just call them George and Charlotte because I think that's quite sweet. And they will be named by Taxon and Aubrey of Juma. And then there will be a long meeting with the rangers of the area to ratify the names. And those sorts of meetings are the kinds of things that will put you to sleep in 3.5 seconds. But they will happen, and hopefully I'll be able to avoid them. and Taxon and Aubrey will give them their names. But it normally only happens when they're a year old. We've tried to make it a little earlier this year, but it's been difficult to do that because, well, the tradition is only after a year. We've tried to make them sort of official before that, but we haven't so far succeeded. All right, Jamie's back on her car. Let's go and find out what Karula and her cubs are doing.
Oh, I'm back on the vehicle, and so far no luck with Karula and her cubs. I've checked under basically every single bush that is between where we last had the tracks and Treehouse Dam, and I haven't had any luck. I'm just wondering whether I didn't miss their tracks crossing the road to the north of Treehouse Dam. So that's what I'm doing at the moment, is just doing a big loop around before I come back. There's a message on the Game Drive channel that Karula's tracks crossed south into Little Gowrie, but we know that they did that yesterday, and everybody's sort of quite happy that she's south and she's outside of her traverse area, but I don't think so. These tracks are, or the tracks that I had for her, are just too fresh looking for that to be the case, and they're on top of Herbert's tracks where Herbert's been walking to track her. I think she's here somewhere. Now we're going to keep our eyes peeled, and we're going to concentrate for a little bit longer on figuring out where she's gone. Just do one more loop to the south. Just make sure I haven't missed something obvious. And while I was there, I sort of thought I heard, every now and again, I thought I heard something that sounded like chewing or crunching, which would be a perfect reason for why she would have gone to fetch the cubs and take them in that direction from the south, if she had a kill that she'd stashed somewhere. But I can't quite figure out. I mean, I checked the trees above my head, because that's always a pleasant surprise when you're tracking leopards and all of a sudden you look up and they're there above your head. Those tracks are too fresh for her to have crossed south since. Oh, we're going to keep trying. We're going to look for the royal family. Karula plus Cub 1 and Cub 2. Where are we? And at least the walk got the blood flowing a little bit. Faria and Dr. Rob in New Jersey, to go back to our question that Joey asked a little bit earlier about how I knew it was Karula's tracks. You guys want to know, well, what makes Karula's paw tracks different to other leopard tracks? Nothing, to be 100% honest with you. I haven't noticed any little idiosyncrasies that might make her easy to identify. She's small, so is Shadow and so is Tundi, both of which are females that we might, in unusual circumstances, see tracks of on this side, in this area. So nothing makes Karula's tracks distinct or different. All female leopard tracks are relatively tiny. Karula, Shadow and Tundi, their tracks are all smaller than some of the larger females that we see, just because they are a slightly smaller line genetically of leopards. But to me, personally, I find Karula's tracks relatively indistinguishable from, say, Shadow's tracks. However, the fact that there are two sets of little cub tracks, from what I can see, one larger, one smaller, accompanying Mom's tracks, immediately suggests Karula, since she's the only female in this area that we know of with two young cubs. Now, is there a chance that another leopard with two cubs came wandering onto Karula's territory? Very, very unlikely. No self-respecting female would actually run that risk of coming into another female's territory, especially with little babies. The only time generally that leopards will sort of incur straight into the middle of another female's territory is usually when they're mating with a male and he's led them into another female's territory, or if they're seeking to establish themselves. But other than that, female leopards tend to respect each other's space very effectively. Alright, she definitely hasn't come out here. She's here, I promise you. I've just got a feeling that those cubs are somewhere in there. stop for one moment. These guys are looking very calm. They don't look like they've seen a leopard in recent times, but they're on the wrong side. Some very chilly male impala. The herd structure of the impala hasn't quite stabilized just yet after the rutting on the breeding season, where the males were separated from the herds of the females, usually by larger rams. These young boys waiting for hormones to settle before they can all become part of the herd at large. Bright red and fluffy. And as our impala wander off, we've spoken before about the drought and how it's going to benefit the predators. But Kat would like to know how that may be, just in terms of the grass growth. Will the prey species move away because they become more visible? Will it become more difficult for the predators to hunt? The preys they're stuck here. There's nowhere really for them to go. They could, in theory, start moving to the northern areas of the Kruger National Park. They might start going in that direction. It's unlikely, though. They're going to stick around their home areas because there's water here. There's very little water from between us and the northern parts of Kruger that have had a little bit more rain. So to get there is a very difficult journey for the animals to make. The elephants might do it, and other animals, slightly larger herds of buffalo might do it, but chances are they're all going to stay here. And because they are forced into areas with lots of water, they're forced into areas around dams, it makes life for the predators very easy. There was a time when it was very, very dry, at the beginning of the year, where the Birmingham boys basically sat at 3 in the row pan, and 3 in the row pan became the place where buffalo went to die, because they had to go and drink, and the Birmingham boys just used to sit and wait, and then they'd catch one buffalo, and then 3 days later they'd actually just abandon that carcass and catch another buffalo, because the animals are forced in that direction to come and drink. So life for the predators becomes much, much easier. And this is a time where it's a time of plenty for them, essentially. Okay, her tracks have come in here. They haven't come out to the east on either the northern side or the southern side. Now let us go and check the northwestern side, at which point all corners have been checked, and it is time to go for another walk. Although, I mean, I promise you, I've checked under each and every single bush here. And in the trees as well, but there's not that many big trees here. But I've checked under every single bush in this patch, and I haven't seen anything. Leaving no stone unturned, no leaf unstepped upon, in order to search for her. It's not a nice perspective. I wonder if she's not here somewhere. Karula. Just got a feeling she is. Her tracks were... Leopards, when they're walking to somewhere, so when they're walking with a specific destination in mind, and even Karula, with her strange and somewhat unpredictable way of moving, they walk in a very deliberate fashion. They walk in a straight line. They don't mess around attempting to... Oh, my ear's so cold I didn't even notice my earpiece had fallen out. Didn't even feel it. I wonder how long that's been hanging out for. Yes, they walk in a very, very deliberate way, in a straight line. They don't waste time. And that's what makes me think that the way she was walking, she's either in here or she's going to pop out somewhere straight ahead of me. Her tracks, at least. James Richard shares a fascination with me as to the sizes of the little leopard cub tracks and the little lion cub tracks. And James, you wanted to know how much larger Karula's male cub tracks are than the lion cub tracks, and the answer is they're not. At this point, even with the age difference between the lions and the leopard cubs, even at this point, the tracks for the lion cubs are actually almost if they're not the same size, they're probably a little bit larger, but they are not far off at all. And I know I'm not looking at you guys right now, I'm just concentrating very hard on making sure I haven't missed something obvious here. I'm reluctant to accept that she's crossed south. It doesn't make any sense for her to have crossed south when her tracks, fresh tracks, move so deliberately in this area, through this area. She might even still be moving. We might just have done a circle around her and missed her by minutes. By royal appointment only, we might have been a little bit late. I'm just checking really carefully. I do need to concentrate for now, because I think she's somewhere here. Now while I focus on finding the royal family for you, let's go back over to James. Whoopsie daisy, well it appears as though James doesn't have any sound, which is why you are back on the back of Rusty, but that's okay, we'll just search for Karula together. She hasn't come through here either. She's keeping us guessing in relatively typical Karula fashion. Luckily I've got the keen eyes of Brian on the back as well, so while I'm focusing for tracks, he's also keeping a very close eye out for any sign of her. Hidden. Now chances are, if she has made a kill that she's leading the cubs towards, chances are it's either hidden under a very dense bush, the sort of the easiest that she can find to drag it underneath, or she's put it up in a tree, depending on what size kill she has made. If it's a big impala and she hasn't had a chance to feed on it, then it's probably on the ground. If it is something smaller, then it is probably in a tree. Stands to reason. So we've got to examine all options very carefully. Right, seems as though James is back up and running. Let's go across to him.
Don't you think? I think you can hear me now, everybody. Sorry about that. We are on the bushwalk backpack on the back of this Mahindra. And, well, that brings with it certain challenges. Here, a little herd of nyala walking through the dawn light, and I was talking about how fluffy they have become in the wintertime. Well, there is more evidence of their fluffiness. And there's a very small little one. Can you see that one, Dave? Yeah. At the back. Tiny little nyala. Probably with a sibling. The one that the little one's walking with is a young male. You can see that from the horns sticking out the top of his head. And the cow in front that you first saw, I think, is probably the mother of both of them. Very sweet. And just, I know you can't hear so well, but there are robins calling, and there are orioles going, "Yoop, yoop." Lovely liquid call. Thick liquid, viscous liquid call. It's like a great big drop of sunshine being dropped somewhere. That's what an oriole's call sounds like. You quite like that, David, don't you?
Yes.
Okay, we're not far from Buffelshoek Dam. Let's pop across. Let's head to Buffelshoek Dam. We're not far from here. Apparently we are still experiencing one or two audio issues. We're all good here, Geraldine. Okay, we're approaching Buffelshoek Dam. Maybe the lions and their cubbies are sitting about on the dam wall there. but I haven't seen any tracks coming out of this very thick block, so I'm not so sure. We might be lucky. Plenty of evidence of elephants, that is their dung strewing the road, as are the trees that they have pushed over all over the place. And they've made it very difficult driving off-road, have the elephants. And we've talked muchly about the drought and muchly about the dry season and the effect that elephants have on the area. Ooh. But what we haven't perhaps pointed out carefully enough is the fact that although the elephants are doing damage, and those are inverted commas, although they are doing damage out here, they're clearing up the bush, they're changing the structure, and that's perfectly fine, that's totally normal. Now, Sydney in Florida, you want to know how cold an elephant can get and do they shiver? Well, I'm going to say the coldest elephants in history were probably those that Hannibal took from Carthage and crossed the Alps with. And I suspect they were colder than any elephant that ever lived out here. And you want to know how cold they can get? I don't know. They certainly remember, there are two things to remember about this. Firstly, I don't think they shiver. They can if they have to, I'm sure. All mammals shiver, and I think birds do too. And shivering is just it's the same as when you exercise to get warm. Your muscles start to vibrate and they contract and release very quickly in order to release extra metabolic heat, and that then warms them up. That's what shivering is. It's called, if you want to be biological, shivering thermogenesis, which is quite a nice word for this time of the morning. But I have never seen an elephant shivering. But remember that an elephant doesn't have fur on it, and it doesn't have fur on it for a reason. It don't get as cold as we do, and it also doesn't heat up as fast as we do. So the difficulties they have maintaining their temperatures are much smaller than the difficulties that we have, and certainly the difficulties that a bushveld gerbil would have. And so they don't do a great deal of shivering. And I really just don't think it gets cold enough here. I mean, the coldest part of Africa where elephants exist, I suppose Ngorongoro crater must get pretty chilly, probably down to 2 or 3 degrees every so often. Parts of the Eastern Cape of South Africa will go down to 2 or 3 degrees, maybe 0 sometimes. But the elephants don't seem to have any trouble with that, and I can't remember a time where I've heard of an elephant dying of cold shock. But you do hear of antelope every so often, where the really cold snap comes through and they die. Hello, Abshek. Nice one for you. What have you got, Dave? Abshek, you are wondering whether the climatic conditions in Africa have changed as a result of global warming, or has it always been this cold in the wintertime? Abchek, there's absolutely nothing here at Buffelshoek Dam. It's very distressing. Let me just pull over to the end of the dam wall and I will explain. And I'm going to use my exceptional drawing skills, David. Do you feel excited? Yes. I'm sure you do. Now, Abchek, I'm going to draw you a map. You say, have the climatic conditions in Africa changed, or has it always been this cold in the wintertime? Abchek, remember, hold on one sec. Africa is very, very large, which means that the conditions where we live in Africa are entirely distinct from those that the conditions are in, say, the Ngorongoro crater. David, can you see this? Too far. Can you see that? Good grief, really? Here? Here? Oh, good. Right, Abject, this is going to be Africa, believe it or not. Now, Africa looks a little bit like this, very little. you must accept that I'm the world's worst drawer. There's the sort of bulge, goes down like that to Cape Town, comes up here, and goes down to the Horn of Africa there. There we go. I didn't quite make it in my frame, but that's basically, abject, is what Africa looks like. Now, Africa is 3 times the size of the continental United States, so it's massive, right? You got Africa there, Dave? I think that's quite impressive, don't you? There is Cape Town, and we're over here in the Kruger National Park, which basically is a big piece of land in that area there. Ngorongoro Crater, where I think the coldest elephants are, is all the way up here. That is a good 2,500 miles from where we are now. And remember the Ebola outbreak that happened, which was in Liberia, which is around here. That's another 2,500 miles from there, 3,000 miles from us. So the size of this continent is absolutely astounding. And it's very important that people realize that, so that when you, I'll get back to the question now, when you say, has global warming affected the entire continent, or has Africa always been this cold in winter? Africa is cold in winter in different places. It's much colder in Johannesburg, which is over there, than it is where we are here. It's much colder, or there's a Mediterranean climate in Cape Town. It's rainy now there compared with here. In Ngorongoro Crater, the equator runs like this. The Ngorongoro Crater is north of the equator, so they're in the middle of summer at the moment. So Africa is really a very vast place. I don't believe that global warming has necessarily affected our climate. I think there are a lot of people who will tell you that global warming has affected our climate substantially. I don't believe that to be the case, because I don't believe that we have the evidence yet to say. Could we on average say that global warming has affected Africa's climate? Yes. Does the drought of last year mean that global warming has affected us? Almost certainly not. We've had droughts in this area forever, and it's a sort of 7 to 9 year cycle that we get droughts. That's perfectly consistent with what we've had. So no, I don't think there's been any noticeable change for us. Has there been a degree or two difference? Maybe. Do we notice it? Do the animals notice it? No. Do the plants notice it? Yes, probably. They probably are the ones that notice it more. And there will be very subtle changes in vegetation as a result of all of that. There's not an animal here, is there? Not a sausage. Okay, let's move on. We'll turn around and go back down the other way and see what we can find. I thought it was quite a good map there, David. One of my highlights, don't you think? My best one, I guess. Hello, Donald in Louisiana. Nice one from you. You say, does frost ever develop here? I've seen frost in this area once, and that was at Ngala, where I was working. It's about 50 kilometers north of where we are now, 35 miles or so. It's no colder than it is here. That was just quite a chilly winter that we had. It was about 10 years ago. No, more. 10 or 12 years ago. So I would say, no, it doesn't occur here. Has it ever? Yes, probably once or twice. Not often. Hello, Maggie M. Just before we leave here, a very good question from you. Davey, if you see the big torchwood there, yeah. If you just film beyond that there. Maggie M, you say, does the lack of grass mean that hippo will have to roam further away from the water? And does that therefore consequently mean that when we're on foot we have to be that much more careful? Maggie, all of those things are completely true. That's exactly what's going to happen. Hippo will absolutely have to roam much further to get sufficient food into their bellies. They are, of course, grazers, and they need the grass, and the grass is now getting further and further away from the waters, that grass that there is left. And yes, we've had one or two incidents already this year where we've walked along and we found hippo lying in the bushes, which is very unusual in the middle of the day. So it does mean we have to be that much more careful, that much more aware when we're on foot. Nice question. Thank you, Maggie. Let us drive down the way here. And we'll go and look at the first place those little cubs were seen on Juma and see if they haven't come out into that area again. Otherwise, we may have to go and look for something else. The earth is distressingly quiet on the sighting. Sorry about that signal breakup. Not unusual in this area, and especially not with the bushwalk backpack. You may lose us as we go down the next hill. If you do, I'm sorry, but last time I walked here it was fine, so we should be alright. Let's see. Dave, I forgot to put my leggy blanket back on. My poor little leggies. Oh, Scott, what a nice question. You say, I think if I heard you correctly, if the cubs get lost, will they find their mother? How will they find their mother? You say, you know she can find them, but how will they learn the area? I don't know the exact method. I don't think they could find her. I'm sure that if she decided to move, I don't know, a kilometre away, and I don't think they'd be able to find her at all. But I don't know that she doesn't teach them the area. I think it's just experience walking around an area. I also think that there's an animal's home. You know, they have a sense of direction and ability to get to places they've been before that we as human beings simply do not. Or most of us don't. You know that dogs, you hear the stories of dogs getting lost and finding their way back to homes that they were at years and years previously, having had no experience of the route of how to get there. They just, somehow, there's something in their bodies that gives them that incredible directional sense. And animals out here have that especially. If you watch Karula, she is, the way she walks away, she goes off somewhere else and walks back to where those cubs are. They're looking around. I think it's amazing. Jamie's got an interesting bird. We're going down the hill.
We've actually, in theory, got a couple of interesting birds. It's just that most of them are very small and very subtle. But we've got this gorgeous crested barbet warming himself up in the morning sun. A bird feeding party and not a leopard feeding party, which was the update I was hoping I could give to you. I don't know how the Queen has managed to pull such a sneaky maneuver, but she's not here. As to where she is, well, unfortunately, your guess is as good as mine at this point, because I definitely have absolutely no idea. I've followed her tracks right up until they disappear. I've checked under every tree, every bush. I've checked in every tree and every bush, and I don't know where she's gone. She's clearly pulled some kind of mysterious Karula-style disappearing act. So, a crested barbet. For new viewers, we always encourage you to start up a little bit of a bird list, keep track of all of the marvelous little birds that we do see out here. And there's a couple of little ones, and I'm hoping I can get you a view because we don't often get a nice sighting of them. A unusual colour that they are, a very, very bright blue, and that is the blue waxbills that are on the ground. And I'm going to find you one now. There's one on the right-hand side of the road, just underneath the little bush that's sticking up right in this corner of the road. A little bit too... Oh, have you got one there, Brian? Well done. There's actually a whole lot of them hopping around. The beautiful bright blue waxbills that have been accompanying me on my trekking expedition, keeping me company and occasionally causing a brief rustling of leaves that's made me turn around once or twice in the hope that I had come upon Karula and her cubs. But unfortunately, no luck for now. We'll have to just keep circling the area and trying. Perhaps she has crossed south. I'm not sure how she managed it, but perhaps she did. Perhaps she managed to escape us somehow. There's our little foraging blue waxbill. And then, just to conclude our bird watching moment, there is a beautiful greater blue-eared starling that is now sitting where the crested barbet was, that we're bouncing all over the place to have a look at our bird feeding party. And there we go. Just have a look at this incredible colouring in the morning sun. That incredible incandescence that the starlings have. There's lots of, speaking of birds, there's lots of go-away birds calling, but to the east of us. Maybe Karula moved only in the drainage lines, and perhaps it's her that they are alarm calling at. We're going to spread our search a little bit further afield and see if I can't pick up on where her tracks must have left this area. They must have, because she's not here. Because short of stepping on her and not seeing her, there's no way I could have missed her here. Having a bit of a preen, spreading the preen, the oil that comes from the preening gland that waterproofs their feathers and keeps them glossy, shiny and in place, and also helps to stop the build-up of parasites. These birds, just like any other animal out here, pick up mites, parasites, ticks, fleas. And the regular preening helps to prevent that. Looks as though it's a bit breezy up there. Very puffed up and very, very chilly. I'm not sure whether James is giving you the update on the Game Drive channel. I know that it's probably difficult for him to... Oh, what have we got there? There's our crested barbet, making a marvellous appearance. Isn't he absolutely gorgeous? Sort of red blush almost to his face and chest, and then the bright contrasting yellow, black and red. And there you go, giving us a very clear indication of why it's called the crested barbet. The crest fluttering at the top there. Then just an update on our lion situation and on the Game Drive channel. The guys have found one... Oop, bye-bye. The guys have found 3 Nkuhuma lionesses and 1 Birmingham boy to the north of our Traverse area. So for Lynn and for the many others that sent through the updates about the lions roaring on the Djuma Dam camera and could hear them, we heard them all night. We've accounted for at least 4 of them that were vocalizing throughout the evening. That is where they are, to the north of where we can drive. Okay. Let us go and figure out how Karula managed to escape us. Joey's got an idea as to how we've missed out on finding where Karula went. He thinks perhaps lions and leopards are jumping over the roads in order to prevent leaving tracks. I've often said that before. It's a very regular joke between various field guides about the ways in which the lions and the leopards can trick us. Yes, they definitely can jump far enough. A leopard like Karula could spring over this road from a standing start without even thinking about it. Oh. Herbert! My hero! Hi guys! She's here somewhere. Good morning. Sorry guys, let me just chat to Herbert. Morning everybody.
Morning, Jimmy.
Morning Herbert. Good, thanks. How are you? Yeah,
They went south.
they went south. But these are so, I mean, Nkonzo back there are so fresh and they go into the scover. Yeah, I've been walking there. I can't find her. I don't know where she's gone. But to me these look fresh.
The ones that you had that side are the same other thing. Just my pins.
No, mother's there too.
Is it?
Yeah, you'll see I marked the last track where she went north or northeast on a game path.
Did you check Chibamu side?
No, I'm going to go there now. But she walked. I don't know where she went. I've been walking. I've been looking under every bush.
To the west of Chibamu, there's tracks of the mother going north.
Okay.
She might have had a kid somewhere in the field.
I think she's got a kill somewhere here. I think she brought them back. I think she went in that way and she's brought them back this way. But I'm looking still. Do you want to come past? Sorry guys, I'm just having a little bit of a chat to Herbert. I'm hoping, given his incredible success rate with finding Karula, he might be able to give me a hand. I think that Herbert agrees with me. No, I mean, these are fresh. These are not old tracks. She's here somewhere, guys. I just have a feeling. These are fresh tracks. Look, with the babies and everything. I don't want to leave just yet. Herbert's doing a U-turn. He's going to go and search for her. We're going to carry on searching for her. Joey, I think Karula walks backwards. That's what I think. I think Karula and the lions, they have a little quiet chuckle to themselves at night and go, how can we mess with the people today? I think I'm going to walk backwards down the road just to make things extra specially confusing. What do you think, Brian?
Yeah, I think so.
I think that's... Or else, there's one very devious person with a leopard track stamp that comes through and does this along the road at night when we're all asleep. There's all kinds of marvelous ways. Or Karula's got secret portholes somewhere. Secret wormholes, maybe tunnels underground. What do we all think? Maybe that's the solution. Maybe she's got secret underground passages. Like true royalty. Oh dear. Okay, well she's not still here. Or at least she's not in this block, and I'll tell you why. On top of a tree, surveying the area. Oh, it is going to be very tricky to get you a view. I think if I go forward... You got it. Thank you. This is what I mean when I say that sitting on top of the tree, surveying the area, a very sharp-eyed primate, a very relaxed, sharp-eyed primate. Oh, are we having a morning snooze? I think this monkey's got the way to do it. Having a little bit, oh, I'm awake. Dozing in the morning sunlight. Quick scratch. Excuse me, I don't suppose you've seen a leopard. I bet you have at some point. You probably know exactly where the leopard is. Not concerned in any way. It's time for a morning sunbathing session, a quick scratch, and possibly some grooming. Looking very comfortable. Now, the reason I say that the leopard is not here is if it was, the monkeys of this area would be going. They're very typical alarm call. Whenever I do it, I sound like Donald Duck. Brent definitely does a better impression. Brian probably does a better impression than I do.
I can do a decent one.
Can you do a decent one for us, Brian? Oh! Hey, look, he even looked at Brian in response. Okay, Brian definitely does a better, as usual. Brian's imitations are absolutely marvellous. He's had a black-bellied bustard respond to him before, and a hornbill.
And a hornbill.
And a hornbill. So Brian definitely, I think, wins in terms of the WildEarth staff members that do animal impressions. Sorry, Herbert's trying to call me. Go ahead, Herbert. If he's found her, I'm going to be overjoyed and also cry. Hold on a second. We've been interrupted mid-conversation. We'll just wait for a moment until that conversation is finished. At least we've got this lovely view of the vervet monkey doing exactly what I think Brian and I will be doing in a moment, which is finding the best patch of sun and sunbathing there. Those alarm calls still going on. It's warm enough now that the go-away birds could be calling in response to a bird of prey. But there's lots of quack, quack. Go ahead, Herbert. Sorry, guys. Let me just finish off chatting to him. Copy that. Thank you, Herbert. Okay, so Herbert's found tracks of a male as well, and he thinks that might be a reason why she might have disappeared without a trace. That makes a little bit of sense if she tried to move the cubs away. Even a male leopard, the Tingana, that may well be the father, she's still going to be extra specially careful. Sorry to Alice in Ohio, and good morning to you as we watch our monkey enjoy the rays of the morning sun. What do monkeys eat? Monkeys are, their diet is mainly herbivorous, just in terms of what they can find, but they are omnivores. They are capable of eating both meat and plant matter. They eat roots, shoots, leaves, berries. They really do enjoy the fruits of the various things, of the various trees, the pods and seeds of different plants, and they'll also feed off, when they groom themselves, you'll watch them, you'll see them eat the ticks that they pull off their skin. They have also even been known to raid nests of birds and steal eggs and chicks. Now, monkeys are relatively very clever little omnivores, very, very adaptable in terms of their diet. They also like to come and hang around human camps. They learn very quickly that human beings mean food. And we've got, I mean, even though we're very careful at camp in terms of where we put our rubbish and our food, we've got a troop of monkeys that pays a pretty much daily visit to come and see whether there's the possibility of knocking over a dustbin or perhaps a banana peel or something that they can nibble on. That is the sort of general diet of a monkey. Monkeys are incredibly sharp-eyed, and they do, like our mongoose family, they do often take responsibility for keeping an eye out for the entire family. Now, Shamsan, you were wondering, is it one monkey that takes the sentry duty, or will it be a different one every time? The answer is there will be certain individuals that will probably accept that responsibility more than the others. I want to know where the rest of this monkey's troop is, because I can only see one monkey. The rest of them must be a little bit hidden in this thick block somewhere around here. But Shamsan, it's apparently, from what I've read, there seems to be some evidence to suggest that the sub-adult monkeys often take on that responsibility, as well as one of the more dominant males, the dominant adult males. But they're all very, very alert. So it's not a sort of a one-sentry position all the time. They'll often just all be keeping an eye on whatever's happening around them. And the noisy calls of the arrow-marked babblers filling our morning with their calls. Okay. All right. Let us continue onwards, since Herbert is here to help us. He can keep track of them. Where are the arrow-marked babblers? Brian's managed to find them. Well done, Brian. The name babbler course, describes the giggling sound that they make, and there we've got a brief view of why they're called arrow-marked. If this babbler decides to, never mind, it's going to say turn around and face us, but it's completely disappeared from view, but the little white arrow mark shapes on their feathers. Right, let us go and investigate, see if we can't work out what's happening with Karula and cubs. In the meantime, let's find out how James's morning is going.
I have found nothing, everybody. We have just been driving about the place. I found one black chagra with a caterpillar in its beak, but otherwise that has been the sole achievement of my morning, other than just sort of enjoying the very pleasant atmosphere that surrounds us. David still looks like a bank robber. Indeed, I think that one day he should display his rather impressive balaclava to you. It's very modern, David. Sort of blue rather than black, and very tight. Yes. Yes, the kind of thing that an 80s bank robber would be very jealous of. Now, you'll notice I'm not holding the steering wheel. This is not because I'm trying to be clever, it's because my hands are very cold, and so I'm sitting on them, hoping that the warmth of my bottom will unfreeze my frost-bitten little fingers. The car is very kindly driving itself along the Mowawati drainage line, where I was hoping to see some lions playing with their cubs just in the sand in a patch of golden sunlight. Instead, no, instead it's just sand in the golden sunlight. So a little bit further along, Twin Dam.
Oopsie daisy, it seems as though we lost James there for a moment. As you can imagine, as we always say, bringing you a live safari from the middle of the African bush comes with certain technological challenges, and it appears as though he's just hit a little bit of a signal black hole. But never fear, we are still around, we've still got signal, and we are still searching for Karula, because I, at the moment, refuse to give up just yet. She might be south. As Herbert said, if there was a male in the area, she might have ducked away. And Felicity in New Zealand, in terms of Karula perhaps moving away from a male that she's seen, how would she be aware of the presence of a male? And the answer is she might actually pick up on their scent marking and their smell. So you know how even if the leopard hadn't marked his territory, even if he hadn't urine scent marked, you know how leopards scrape their feet when they urinate, when they spray their territory? And what purpose that serves, apart from sort of scratching the ground and spreading the scent a little bit, is it actually puts the smell of the leopard on their feet. So when they walk, they leave something like a scent trail behind. So it's kind of like when somebody's wearing a great deal of perfume and they've left a room and you can still smell them around that area. That's what it's like for leopards in terms of the way that they can smell and the way that they interpret the world. Now, that is probably one of the best ways that a leopard will pick up on another leopard. She might even have heard him. If it was a territorial male moving through an area, he might have called. But animals do have a far better sense of where other animals are than we do, just because their senses are so much more refined than ours. I saw movement up in the top of that very green tree at the back there, and I don't know if it was a bird or if there's something hiding there. I just want to stop and double check. I really don't want to run the risk of driving past them if they're somewhere here. And there's a good chance that Karula's little cubs, who are now proficient tree climbers, might seek refuge in a tree like that. It's a perfect leopard tree. And I don't think that's a leopard at all. I think it's a bird. Did you see that, Brian?
Yeah, I did.
No, that's a bird. Never mind. At least I did see movement. But it's not a leopard. It is a maybe hornbill fluttering about there. Okay, well, at least James's search for signal appears to have gone well. He's back up and running. Let's go see what he has to tell you.
But where is he? But where is he, do you suppose? There he is. Hello. I've come up here to here on bushwalk. Can you hear me now? Coming, wait. Can you hear me now, David? I'm coming, I'm coming. Now, my yelling there, everybody echoed through the bushveld, and if I know Herbert's around here, and so's Jamie, and they must be wondering what's going on. I saw this the other day on bushwalk there, and it's called a bracket fungus. And what I just wanted to fetch was a sample. And so let me just flip it around like this. See amazing golden colours. Stunning. I don't think they're edible. As far as I'm aware, they're completely inedible. Look at that. And there are a whole lot of worms inside there. You see that, Dave?
Yeah.
I don't know what that is. I don't know what the hair is. I'm assuming that it's probably fungal mycelia, in other words, part of the fungus. But it seems to be a nest of some kind of grub that is going to hatch into a large adult insect at some stage. Anyway, I didn't take it all off, I just broke a piece off. I didn't think that there would be all sorts of other things in there. Could be toxic, so not going to sort of take a bite. There was something of vital importance I wanted to tell you about this that had relevance to Saturday morning. Oh yes, I think it's the thought of a fry-up with mushrooms for breakfast a little bit later on. That's what I wanted to tell you. So that's the bracket fungus. It's called a bracket fungus because it sits like a shelf in the side of the tree. And the only way it gets into the tree is through the attentions or the scraping away of the bark by elephants. And the last time I came past this tree in a vehicle, there was an elephant standing exactly where you saw me. Just peeped my head round the side of that tree. There was an elephant there. Amazing that it's got up there. It's hooked away some bark with its trunk, tusks, and that's opened up an area for the bracket fungus to get into, and that's how the bracket fungus mycelia or spores have got in there. The mycelia, which are like the roots, have then spread out, and the fungus has grown. That's the story of the Saturday bracket fungus, David. Sore amazed, I know you must be. Now, we're going to head down towards Twin Dams, see what we can find there. As I was saying to you before, I was rudely interrupted by a lack of signal earlier. I found one chagra eating a caterpillar, and a chagra is a little shrike-like bird. But what is interesting is that there are still caterpillars around, and both Jamie and I were the beneficiaries of Herbert's great eyes on our bushwalks the last 2 mornings, also finding caterpillars. What they're eating now, I couldn't tell you. Now, let's ease our way down to Twin Dams. Let's see what there we can find. Because at the moment things are a little quiet out. Right, two lovely questions about smell, one from Miss and one from Safari Dean. Miss, can you just quickly, not Miss, Jerry, can you just give me Mrs. one again so that I don't get it wrong? So you want to know, Miss, which animal has the strongest sense of smell, and then Safari Dean sort of dovetailed with that. You want to know why it is that human beings seem to have lost their very sensitive sense of smell. Miss, I would say lots of animals have very powerful senses of smell out here. I'd say probably hyenas have the strongest. They are able to smell carcasses apparently at about 5 kilometers. I've watched Mvula track down a leopard, at least a zebra carcass from 2.5 to 3 kilometers. He smelt that, and I imagine a hyena is probably almost able to do it maybe 1.5 times that distance. Yeah, so let's say 5 kilometers, which is about 3.5 miles. And why, Safari Dean, you want to know, there's a duiker. It's running away, David. Obviously, it's running away so fast. It's leaving a dust cloud. You see it there? It's just on the right-hand side of that thicket. You got him there. There we go. Now, Safari Dean, why is it that human beings have lost their ability to smell? The duiker has now absconded. Oh, we haven't, but we have. Sounds like a very silly answer. You actually are able to smell and sense things and interpret scent a lot more than you think you're able to. Yes, there's no question our noses are not nearly as sensitive as those of a hyena or of an elephant or a buffalo, which will smell us from many miles away. But they're still extremely important to us. Why have we lost that sense of smell? It's just not as important to our hunting. It's not as important to our defense. Because we live and have lived now in sedentary communities where it's far more our sight that is our sense of defense, and we don't hunt by smell, we hunt by sight almost exclusively. So that's why the necessity of having a very complex olfactory mechanism has reduced slightly. But, and I've said this a couple of times, our sense of smell is much stronger than many of us think it is. And you have only to think about the familiarity that some people smell like to you. So you know that when you hug a member of your family, they smell like home. You also know that smells from your childhood and smells from will trigger memories in your body. Now that is an indicator of how powerful our smell actually still is. It doesn't necessarily mean that in our sort of urbanized society that it helps us to survive, because I don't think it makes a huge difference to our survival rate. But it does mean that if you took us back, if you put us into the bush, say, I don't know, before the advent of agriculture, 12,000 years ago, if you tossed us into the bush, you'd find that those senses of smell, those same things that trigger off those memories, that same sensitivity to other people's smells, would absolutely be crucial to our survival.